In this psychology revision video, we will review conformity from paper 2, topic 5, social influence. There's a few things we need to know about conformity for the exam, and those things are a key definition of the word conformity, a conformity study, evaluation of that study, the social factors that increase and decrease the chances of conformity occurring, and the dispositional factors that increase and decrease the chances of conformity occurring. To get started with, we'll start with an exam definition of conformity. The best exam definition is like this: a change in a person's behaviour due to group pressure. In simple terms, it basically means doing something because everybody else is doing it. But in the exam, they're really looking for you to use those two keywords, a change in behaviour and pressure. The biggest example of conformity would be sort of smoking, because lots of people start smoking in the first place due to some form of group pressure. Often when they're teenagers, it's when the pressure is on to start something like smoking. The famous study into conformity was conducted by Ash in 1951, and it was the very famous line test. Here is a recap of the study, which I will leave on the screen for you to read. Okay, so what can we say about the Ash study? Well, in terms of evaluating it, there's actually quite a lot. We'll start with the positives. It was conducted in a lab, and that does come with its main positives, as they always do. Firstly, when you conduct a study in a lab setting, you can have extremely high control over the variables. This should mean that the extraneous variables should be mostly controlled, and you should only have one thing being changed, and that is the independent variable. With only one variable changing, we can be absolutely certain of what it is that was causing the conformity to happen. The other good thing about being in a controlled lab setting is that the researchers could standardize the study, a very strict and clear set of instructions, so that it can be replicated. It has been replicated lots of times, and the results are always the same, so it's a very reliable study. On the negatives, though, we can talk about the participants. It was a very specific set of participants. It was only done on male university students in the USA, so this is a big problem when it comes to generalizing the data. In terms of ethics, the study broke a couple of ethics. Psychological harm is a bit of a problem because it put a lot of pressure onto the participants when they thought, when they were feeling the pressure to change their answer, and also deception because, Ash lied to the participants at the start of the experiment. Obviously, conducting a study in a lab has its own negatives as well. So it has extremely low ecological validity, this task. Not only is it in an unnatural setting, so behaviour may be unnatural, the task itself was very strange. It's not very often that from a distance you are comparing the length of lines, and it's not that often that you do it in a room full of strangers. If you were to change that task to with yourself with a group of friends, you might have more confidence to stand up and tell your friends what you think is the correct answer. So maybe we're not truly measuring conformity in real life situations with this study. The main unique evaluation point for this study, which we have covered in lesson, is that the study is very time dependent. It was done in 1951, which was just after World War II, and you might remember that there was a lot of pressure on America to act in American ways, because there was a lot of rumours going around that Russian spies were trying to infiltrate America, and anyone that was caught doing non-American things would be punished. So all Americans in the time sort of period were being very conformist. So it is possible that the study is very time dependent. Okay, the final thing you need to know for conformity are the social and dispositional factors that influence the chances. Here's a quick recap of what these two words mean. So social factors are things around us in our surroundings or environment that might affect our behaviour, and dispositional factors are things inside us that affect our behaviour. When it comes to social factors, there are 4 main things that can increase or decrease the chances of conformity occurring. The first is group size. So if we increase the number of people doing something, it's going to increase the pressure on us and increase the chances of conformity. The second is anonymity, and that is if we take away your identity, you're more likely to stick with your own answer. So if people don't know who you are, or if people don't know what your opinion is, you're more likely to not conform. So when your identity is known to everyone, you are more likely to conform due to the pressure. Ash reran his study to check for anonymity, and the way that he did that is he allowed the participant to write their answer down in secret. When he did this, conformity dropped to only 5% as well, showing that the participant was much more likely to stay with their own answer if they were keeping it a secret. Task difficulty is another example of a social factor. The harder something is, the more likely you are to conform. That's going to be because you're feeling more pressure. And the easier something is, the less likely you are to conform. Again, Ash reran his study and he made the lines even closer to each other, and this increased conformity because it got even harder. The final social factor is unanimity. And unanimity is when every single person around you is doing something. So this is what Ash originally investigated. And when unanimity is broken, when just one person is not following the crowd, conformity drops massively. In terms of dispositional factors, things inside us that affect conformity, we have 2 main factors. We have expertise. So firstly, if you're an expert in a field, you are less likely to conform because you know your stuff. For example, if you are a doctor or a medical professional, you are less likely to feel pressure to start smoking when all of your friends smoke, because you know you're an expert, you know the consequences of smoking. Finally is your personality. Firstly, the type of personality that you have will have a huge impact on whether you conform or not. If you are a stubborn person, you're less likely to give in to pressure, but some people are very compliant and just like to make other people happy, so they're more likely to give in and conform to pressure. But we also have the higher level knowledge of the locus of control. So the locus of control is how much sort of control we feel that we have for the things that happen in our life. And everyone has a locus of control. Some of us will have an internal locus of control, and some of us will have an external locus of control. Those of us with an internal locus of control feel quite in control of our lives, and we are therefore less likely to be affected by conformity because we're more prepared to stand up for what's happening to us. If you have an external locus of control, you are more likely to suffer from conformity. So as a quick recap, we have covered in this video the definition of conformity, the key study by Ash, the evaluation of that study, and the social and dispositional factors. In the next video, guys, we'll cover obedience. I'll see you in that one.